How's it going, everyone, and welcome to the first installment of YouTube Nostalgic Lookback. Since the 20th anniversary of YouTube occurred last year, I figured that for this milestone, as well as how long it has been since I joined YouTube, as well as DeviantArt, I'd make a video about how I started with it all. Now, I had actually planned to post this back in August, as the 28th of August marked the day I joined YouTube for the first time. However, due to many other things going on in my life, I postponed it for later. But I am finally making this video, so I hope you enjoy it. I was originally going to have this all be discussed within a single video, but I realized that there are going to be quite a lot of things for me to talk about, and it would take me such a long time. So I decided to have it be done as a series. In this series of videos, I will discuss the interactions I had with many other YouTube users within the community, some good, some bad, and a few in between. Now, I said I would discuss the bad, and I don't just mean with how YouTube itself has done a few bad things on their side, or with some bad things they just let happen, but also some bad things that happened to me within the community. The first video in this retrospective will not be with my first arrival on YouTube, but with how my experience with YouTube was before I ever even created an account. The time when I was just someone watching videos on YouTube and having no interaction with either the video uploader or anyone else in the comments. I am unsure of the exact date I discovered YouTube for the first time. I think I remember exploring Google, which was one of the things I did on the internet before either YouTube existed or before I even knew the site existed, searching up all sorts of topics about my favorite shows and franchises, such as Thomas the Tank Engine, Bionicle, and Banjo-Kazooie. I think it was with a Banjo-Kazooie video that I first found YouTube with. I don't remember who created the specific videos that I first found, but what I do recall is a video where the player has control over Bottles the Mole and explores a hybrid of two levels from Banjo-Kazooie. I think I was struggling to remember the name of the site. Was it YouTube or YourTube? As I was writing the script, I looked up YourTube to see what I would get, and the results said something like, "It is a clone of YouTube, but better," which I don't recall the search results I found back then to be the same. I think that for the most part, when I began to watch YouTube videos, still without my own account at this point, I would find a lot of things on YouTube such as Thomas and Banjo-Kazooie, and eventually the Legend of Zelda series. I remember seeing a series of videos that discussed a third installment of the Banjo-Kazooie franchise, a Banjo-Threeie to be more specific. This is based on how, at the end of Banjo-Tooie, Grunty vowed she would return in Banjo-Threeie. When I first finished Banjo-Tooie, I assumed there was a third game in the series, but searching online, I found nothing. I am aware of some supposed box art for Banjo-Threeie that was set to be released on the Nintendo GameCube, which was the next system after the Nintendo 64, and not the Nintendo 65. In more recent years, I heard that the staff at Rare said that Banjo-Threeie was nothing more than a joke, and that there were no plans to make a third Banjo game at the time that Tooie was being developed. I think it would make sense for Banjo-Threeie to come out on the Nintendo 64, as it would have made a trilogy. The fact that they stated it was all a joke is quite heartbreaking to say the least, but probably more so if it had been confirmed before Nuts and Bolts came out. I will discuss my thoughts on Nuts and Bolts in a later installment of this series. As for this episode, I'll be talking about what came out before I had a YouTube account, and Nuts and Bolts was released after I had already started using a YouTube account. On a side note, I do remember seeing an animation someone made, which was meant to be a follow-up to the events of Banjo-Tooie, and it was even called Banjo-Threeie. This animation featured full voice acting, but for some reason Kazooie still spoke in bird noises with a speech bubble, as is the case in the games. Not sure why they chose not to have her actually speak. A sum up of this animation is that Grunty, who is still just a skull since the events of Tooie, is found one day by Klungo's long-lost brother, Splungo. Also, I will point out that prior to watching this animation, I thought Klungo's name was pronounced Klungo for some reason. Grunty offers to give him power and riches if he agrees to help her, but he says he likes rocks, so she promises him that. He then takes her to his cave and places her in a glass jar, similar to the one she would be put inside of in Nuts and Bolts with her new body. I also find it ironic how in this animation, Grunty is missing one of her eyes since it popped out at the end of Tooie when Banjo and company were playing around with her head like it was a ball. And this animation has her still missing that eye, which is different than Nuts and Bolts where she returns with both eyes intact. How she got her lost eye back in is a good mystery since I cannot imagine Banjo or anybody else willing to put it back in for her. I won't give too much away in this, so I recommend you check the animation out for yourself. But a fair warning, it does have PG-13 based dialogue. Another thing I remember looking online about regarding Banjo-Kazooie would be the stop and swap items, which had been something fans talked about so much that this was even acknowledged during the quiz show in Nuts and Bolts, stating that it was something some fan sites still won't shut up about. I remember finding the cheat codes to enter in the sandcastle floor of Treasure Trove Cove and unlocking the items. Once I collected them, I wasn't sure what to do next, and neither did anybody else on the internet. I thought that since you found the stop and swap items in Banjo-Tooie and brought them to Heggy to hatch, there might be something similar in Banjo-Kazooie, but I didn't know where to look. Growing up, I would often play through save files I had already completed to see if there was anything new that I had never discovered before. And I think I searched around the game for any way to make use of the stop and swap items. I eventually found out that Rareware had discovered that if you turn off a game console, it retains the data in the console for about 30 seconds, and they wanted to take advantage of that by having you collect the stop and swap items, turn the game off, put in another game, such as Tooie, and transfer the items. This didn't work out because later revisions of the Nintendo 64 reduced the save data time from 30 seconds to 1 second, making it impossible to perform on newer consoles. And Nintendo also didn't want to risk players breaking their cartridges from swapping them out so fast. I would go into more detail, but there are plenty of videos on YouTube that discuss the stop and swap legends, so I recommend that you check them out. I am aware that they did bring this feature back for Xbox Live Arcade. But I am not certain that the new items that we got in the Xbox Live Arcade version of the game were even the originally planned items that tied down to the red, green, and cyan Stop and Swap eggs, assuming that there ever were any plans for these items. Still, this was quite a legend on the internet. I would imagine Stop and Swap to be much bigger if they chose to roll out with it, but it is understandable why they would drop the feature. It would be nice if we got all 6 Stop and Swap eggs in the original Tooie instead of only 3. At some point after writing this part of the script, I had gotten some more information about what Stop and Swap was going to be. Apparently, it was revealed that the Ice Key was supposed to be transferred into Donkey Kong 64, a game I had not played at this point and would not play until 2010. More on that in a future entry. And I am aware that many people theorize that the Ice Key was supposed to unlock something in Donkey Kong 64, which would tie into a refrigerator with Banjo and Kazooie's faces on it. What was then supposed to happen was that when you got Banjo-Tooie, you were supposed to transfer the Ice Key from DK64 into Banjo-Tooie and unlock the same ice chest as in the final game. But instead of a Mega Globo, it would have contained a Mega Jiggy, similar to the Mega Golden Banana in DK64. And I think that collecting all 100 regular Jiggies in Banjo-Tooie, yes, I am aware that there are only 90 Jiggies, not 100, but by the looks of it, it appeared that there was originally going to be 100. This is because Cauldron Keep was originally going to be a full level instead of just the final boss level. When you got all 100 Jiggies in the game, it would unlock a secret cutscene that would show bloopers, similar to what you see as a bonus in Donkey Kong 64. I also heard that Stop and Swap was supposed to bring the Donkey Kong 64 characters into Banjo-Tooie's multiplayer mode as well. I have to give a shout out to GameXplain for making a video revealing this news back in December, and upon hearing it, I just knew I had to add this information to my YouTube experience theories. So if GameXplain is watching this, thanks again. Now on to the Legend of Zelda series. I had gotten my copy of Ocarina of Time from my older sister for Christmas in 2006. Wow, almost 20 years at this point. Of course, I'm recording this in January, so in 11 months, it will have been 20 years since I was introduced to the Zelda series. Okay, anyway, back to the script. I also searched for some things about Ocarina of Time on YouTube. I will admit I did look up the final boss fight before I made it that far into the game, so the ending of Ocarina of Time was kind of spoiled to me. But that's mostly my fault. Who am I kidding? It was totally my fault. I was a young teenager at the time, so I was quite curious about these sorts of things, and I didn't care all that much about spoilers. These days, I try to avoid spoilers as much as I can so I have the best experience with a game or a movie when I finally get to it myself. I didn't, however, see any videos about the plot twist that Sheik was Zelda the whole time. I saw no videos about that plot twist before making it that far into the game. The earliest thing that was a major spoiler was the fight against Ganondorf within the tower. I don't think I saw the tower collapse scene or the fight with Ganon, but I did see the ending where Link gives Ganon the final blow and Ganondorf gets sealed away. What's funny is that the first time I saw the credits, I saw a video that starts with the party at Lon Lon Ranch, and the song that was playing was the song Love by the Sun. I don't know if that video is still up to this day, as I wasn't able to find it as I was working on this part of the script. I don't know if it is because the video was deleted, or if I am lacking the details needed for me to find it again. I also found some videos about Majora's Mask, which was how I learned about this game. I was amazed that they actually made a sequel to Ocarina of Time, and I wondered what it would be like and how it would add to the lore of the Hero of Time. By the way, when I first played Ocarina of Time, I assumed that there was only one Link in the game's franchise, and that the Link that appeared in every Zelda game was the same Link as the one that appeared in Ocarina of Time. But admittedly, I guess that would be a bit confusing given the continuity between games. The games themselves kind of make it a bit vague that the Link in this game is not meant to be the same Link as the first game in the franchise or the most recent one. But upon finding out that there are many incarnations of Link across the franchise, that made everything make all the more sense then. Nintendo even confirmed that the Hero of Time eventually becomes the Hero's Shade in Twilight Princess, which was the first Zelda game besides Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, and the first Zelda game I played on a system that wasn't the Nintendo 64. I may as well mention it now since I'm talking about the Legend of Zelda series at this point in the video. Who do you ship Link with? Or more specifically, the Hero of Time? Whatever your answer is, I will respect your opinion because we are all entitled to our own opinions. We don't have to all agree on a ship regardless of the franchise or who the characters are getting shipped to. But if I were to ask you this question around the time I joined YouTube for the first time and your answer wasn't Princess Ruto, I probably wouldn't take it so well. Yeah, I was quite an obsessive Link and Ruto shipper back in the day. I've lightened up about it since then because I've realized that it is just a game and it isn't like people disagreeing with me is the end of the world. But I do hate it when someone tries to shove their differing opinion down my throat, especially since it is a ship that I especially hate. I will stick to my own opinion regardless of what anybody says, but I do respect other people's opinions as long as they respect mine. What is funny is that as the years have gone on, I had begun to think about whether or not Ruto and Link's marriage even matters. I have come to the realization that Nintendo probably never planned to go anywhere with this marriage idea and just had their engagement be a part of the game's story and be a part of Ruto's character development since she does become the Sage of Water after you complete the Water Temple. Something I was dreading as I was playing through the Water Temple for the first time, as I was worried Ruto would turn out to be a sage in this temple, and was very shocked to find out I predicted correctly. Don't you just hate it when the thing you are dreading about a game or a movie is exactly what ends up happening? I have seen people debate over whether or not Ruto becoming a sage means that she and Link can't get married anymore. I would assume that the sages could go back to their normal lives after this, but even if that was the case, and now that I know about the split timeline, Ruto can't get married to Link anyway in either the adult or downfall timeline, since in the former, Link is returned to his original timeline, while in the latter, he's dead. I did make a video about this a few years ago, asking people about their opinion, and everyone had a different answer. With the child timeline, their marriage could still happen, but does it? Does Link ever bother to go back to Zora's domain after Majora's Mask, or does he end up with Malon? We do see the hero of Twilight living on a farm at the beginning of Twilight Princess, which has led many fans to speculate that the latter could have been what happened. I honestly think Nintendo is just leaving it up to the fans to determine what happened to each hero in the Zelda series after their adventure or adventures, since the Hero of Time has had 2 adventures rather than confirming how they spent their lives after that. Of course, they did confirm the Hero of Time became the Hero's Shade in Twilight Princess, but they haven't confirmed what happened to him between then and when he defeated Majora's Mask. Maybe it's for the best that we don't get an official confirmation about this, because I bet that would be heartbreaking to a lot of people who were hoping for a different outcome for Link's love life. What do you guys think? Do you think that we should get an official confirmation about who the Hero of Time ends up with after the events of Majora's Mask? Or do you think that it is better that we aren't given an official answer, and we can just choose our own answer? Now to discuss the person who inspired me to create a YouTube account and begin doing the things that I had been doing for nearly 18 years at this point. Felix Cheng. Felix Cheng was known back in the day for making many Thomas and Friends New Engine Slideshow videos, as well as Kuno the Tengen. I've already done some videos in the past discussing the history of the New Engine Slideshow videos and series that were inspired by Kuno the Tengen, so it will be a bit hard for me to say things about these video series I haven't mentioned in my previous videos. So what I'm going to do here is discuss about my first experience with watching these videos. The first video I remember watching from Felix Cheng was a video titled Narrow Gauge Tribute, which was a tribute video that showed a series of pictures Felix Cheng had edited from various real train photos, similar to what he did for his New Engine Slideshow videos of the narrow gauge engines, the Coley-Fell engines, and the miniature engines. And the song they used for that video was Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. With a lot of these video tributes Felix Cheng made back in the day, it was quite common for him to use songs that didn't originate from Thomas the Tank Engine, and this was one such case. He also did video tributes to the different small gauges of trains in individual videos, such as one of only the narrow gauge engines, one of the miniature engines, and one of the Coley-Fell engines. I also remember he did a video tribute to the narrow gauge diesels, these being two diesels from the official Thomas canon, Rusty and Fred, and two other diesels that Felix Cheng came up with, Sheen and Daryl McDarrell. I think I should also address a debate that I had with someone regarding Sheen in the comments of my narrow gauge tribute I made years later. In Felix Cheng's New Engine Slideshow series, Sheen is Skarloey Railway Engine number 8, Fred is number 9, and Daryl is number 10. Somebody had pointed out that in the Railway series, Duke was supposed to be number 8 of the Skarloey Railway, and I suppose that at least explains why Fred is number 9. I did check the wiki during the writing of the script and saw that Duke in the Railway series is listed as having the number 1 when working on the Mid-Soda Railway and number 8 on the Narrow Gauge Railway. But the page for Duke in the TV series only lists him as number 1 in the Mid-Soda Railway. It does not say he was ever number 8. So to that, I am going to say that in the TV series canon, Duke was never counted as number 8 of the Skarloey Railway. This could come from the fact that Ivo Hugh, who was Skarloey Railway Engine number 7 in the Railway series, was never adapted, and they would eventually introduce their own number 7 in the TV series, Fearless Freddy. So to that, I am going to say that Sheen is number 8 in the TV series. I don't know if Felix Cheng ever knew or even acknowledged Duke as number 8 in the Railway series, but either way, he created his own number 8 as well as his own number 10, which in my opinion fits better. It is worth noting that in Felix Cheng's narrow gauge engine tributes, Ivo Hugh appears between Duncan and Sheen. This was because Ivo Hugh was Felix Cheng's favorite number 7 of the Skarloey Railway, and preferred him over Fearless Freddy. This could mean Felix Cheng either didn't know or just ignored Duke being number 8 in the Railway series. So for anyone who is wondering why I don't consider Duke as number 8, the wiki does not list him as number 8 for the TV series, even though it does for the Railway series. The latter I am acknowledging, but Duke never wore the number 8 in either series. And I think Sheen is more of a proper number 8. He was based on Tallylyn Railway's number 8, Merseyside. I apologize if I butchered that. Felix Cheng and I simply ignored that detail about Duke's number back in the day. If you are hoping for a better explanation than that, which the person who began this debate did, I do not have a better explanation than that. If that explanation was not good enough for you, no explanation is. If this explanation did not satisfy you enough, the explanation that would simply doesn't exist. So either you are satisfied with this explanation, or you'll have to deal with being unsatisfied. because if there was a better explanation than the one I gave, I would have given it. I would also like to bring up that in Felix Cheng's pictures of Fred, he is depicted in a light lavender color. There had never been an official image of Fred ever released, but since we know that he was based on Tallylin Railway's number 9 engine named Alf, we can assume he looked like this. Christopher Audrey did confirm that in the Railway series, Fred did indeed have a black coat of paint similar to what we see with Rusty. And light lavender was simply the color Felix Cheng chose for Fred. I would create my own custom model of Fred, and I would have him be painted in a sort of dark lavender color to pretty much match with how he appeared in Felix Cheng's images of this character. I'm not sure if we can consider this canon by any means, but if Felix Cheng depicted this character with this color, I'm going to do so as well. So I guess we can just go ahead and say that light lavender is Fred's livery for the TV series. Getting on to the New Engine Slideshow series, I remember finding the first New Engine Slideshow episode one day, and I found it to be quite impressive. I was quite amazed that it later became a whole series, and anytime a new video popped up, I was eager to check it out. Felix Cheng mostly used his own take on the extended Thomas theme throughout most of his New Engine Slideshow videos, but starting with part 5, he began to use other songs as well as the extended Thomas theme. This also happened to be the first time I ever heard the song Never 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 Give Up. I didn't see the original music video for that song prior. When I eventually did, I was very much surprised by how this music video turned out. It was nothing like I was expecting it to. Episode 5 of Felix Cheng's New Engine Slideshow series had to go through a revision because Felix Cheng used a couple of characters named Gary and Steve, who were both characters coming from Combine Harvester 01 series. I hadn't heard of Combine Harvester 01 at this point, but for anyone who is wondering about him, Combine Harvester 01, or CH01 as I will be calling him for the rest of this video, had made a series of videos using his model trains, mostly Bachmann trains. He did have a lot of original characters in that series as well, but he wasn't comfortable with other people using his characters. I do not know why Felix Cheng used Gary and Steve, but CH01 requested that these characters be edited out. I did see the original upload of New Engines 5 that featured Gary and Steve, and it is quite a shame that CH01 disapproved of their use. I did hear that All-American Boy 9, who now goes by the name Rail Pony, also had to deal with cutting Gary and Steve out of his tribute to the diesel engines. But I didn't see the original version of that video. I just know that Gary and Steve were originally in that video because at the start of the new version, AAB9 said at the start of the video that he had to cut those characters out. CH01's YouTube channel is still open today. However, as of this video script writing, his most recent video, Thomas the Model Series Episode 21 Part 2, was uploaded on June 23, 2010. There have not been any new videos uploaded since this one. On November 25th, 2011, he updated the description of his YouTube channel to say that he was still alive and well, but I do not know if he is still using YouTube today. I suggest you check out his YouTube channel and read the description for yourself, as well as check out any videos he has uploaded onto his account. There were some videos that were taken down at some point. It is a shame though, since there were a couple of good videos that I remember seeing on his channel that are unfortunately now gone, particularly a music video using the song Rules and Regulations. Given what he had written, I sure hope that whatever he is doing with his life today, he is doing just fine. Now, when it comes to discussing about the YouTube users in the Thomas the Tank Engine community, I will probably mostly be talking about the users who had appeared in the original Kuno the Tank Engine series that Felix Cheng had created. and I will be talking about such users in the next entry of this retrospective. CH01, however, never made an appearance in the Kuno the Tank Engine series, so I think that this is probably a good time as any to start talking about him, and I just went ahead and talked about him as much as I could. I just pretty much said everything that I needed to say about him, though there is a good chance that I could be missing something about him as a YouTube user, and there is also a good chance that when I do discuss about the users who appeared in the original Kuno the Tank Engine series, as well as discussing about other YouTube users, there is probably going to be a chance that I am going to miss out on something when I am discussing about each of those users. This is mostly just based on how sometimes I may not think to mention everything, while other times there is just some information about these users that I just simply do not know about. Such as, are they still active today? And if they are, what name do they currently go by? So, if there is an instance in which I do make the conclusion that a user is no longer active on YouTube, but they actually are and have a new YouTube account and a new username that I do not know about, but you guys do, let me know in the comments and I will be sure to give an update about those users in a future entry. Getting back to Felix Cheng's New Engine Slideshow videos, Episode 6 was put on his channel as his featured video. I guess he just really liked that episode of his New Engine Slideshow series so much that he had it be his featured video for quite some time. Episodes 7 through 14 use the Repair theme, or the Viaduct theme, as a bonus music track. If you're wondering what music track that is, it's this music track. The Repairs theme was supplied by a YouTube user called TrainLover476. He pretty much did this for the rest of his New Engine Slideshow videos up until I came to YouTube. I felt that using the Repairs theme for 8 episodes in a row started to get repetitive, and I suggested he should try using other songs just as he did for episodes 5 and 6. For episode 15, he used the song Really Useful Engine for the entire video, even during the credits. This episode was the first and only episode not to feature the extended Thomas theme. From episodes 2 through 25, he used the TUGS ending theme for the credits, with episode 15 being the only episode out of these not to feature that theme at the end. I did wonder what Felix Cheng would do for the music that played during the credits starting with episode 16, and I was surprised to hear him still using the TUGS ending theme, considering episode 15 did not have it. Episodes 26 through 29 would instead use the classic Thomas ending theme. These episodes also used an intro to them, much like a lot of my own New Engine Slideshow videos would use later on. Felix Cheng initially tried using the classic Thomas intro, but due to copyright, he swapped it out with his own intro. What is odd is that he also used the original intro for 2 of his homemade Thomas episodes, while the other 2 had his own intro. Speaking of his homemade episodes, Felix Cheng created 4 homemade episodes featuring his fan-created characters. These episodes are Joy and Naz, Leo the Purple Engine, Bad Day at Mount Fuji, and Mushi's New Coaches. They all reuse plots from the actual episodes of Thomas. Joy and Naz reuse the plot of Donald and Douglas, with Joy and Naz replacing Donald and Douglas, James and Sir Topham Hatt retaining their original roles, the recycling cars replacing the spiteful brake van, who got derailed instead of breaking to pieces, and Emily replaced Edward. Leo the Purple Engine reused the plot of A Smooth Ride. In this one, Leo was Sir Handel, Sir Topham Hatt was Mr. Percival, Fergus was Peter Sam, Arthur was Duncan, and Percy was Mighty Mac. In Bad Day at Mount Fuji, Joy and Naz were once again Donald and Douglas, Sir Topham Hatt was himself, Jack and Alfie were Harvey, Murdoch was Percy, and Nobuhiro Wakayama was Lord Callan. Nobuhiro Wakayama would also appear in episode 13 of the new Engine Slideshow series later on. And in Mushi's new coaches, Mushi was Emily, Toby was Thomas, Mavis was Oliver, Henrietta was Annie and Clarabelle, Nigel and Bruce were Emily's coaches, Thomas was Edward, and Percy and Sir Topham Hatt were themselves. As a number of people may know, I would eventually do my own versions of these stories since the originals disappeared from YouTube a long time ago. In the original episodes, Felix Cheng used custom models of his characters with some custom faces that varied in color, such as Nas having a purple face and Leo having a blue face. I think Felix Cheng told me where the faces came from, but I've forgotten what he said. Felix Cheng mostly used wooden railway for his engines, but Joy and Naz's models were Tomy models, Leo's was a Bachmann model, and Mushi's model was made from a train kit from Hobby Lobby. Joy, Naz, and Leo's models also had no means of actually coupling up to the trains, so Felix Cheng had to use his hands to hold the trains to the coaches and other rolling stock. Mushi had a metal hook at the end of his tender so he could couple up to the trains. As for my own models, Joy and Naz were both made from Thomas Wood Heroes, Leo was made from an old Ben model I had, and Mushi was made from an old Edward. Tate 2009 also made his own model of Leo in the Thomas Wood style. When I started work on this video project, I had only known that Tate 2009 had made Leo out of any of the characters that originated from Felix Cheng. However, I did recently discover that he also made custom models of Joy and Naz. I didn't really check out the video in full as of the recording of this video as I was still working on it, but maybe at some point I will check out the full video that he has made. I just thought that I would make this little edit here to let people know that I am aware that he has made his own takes on Joy and Naz. They're both pretty good though. Felix Cheng's New Engine Slideshow series would end up disappearing from YouTube due to his account getting shut down, and he had to start all over. But users such as the new MikeFan21 and Raging Thomas did manage to find most of the episodes, but we are still missing episodes 3, 5, 6, 8, 12, 17, 18, 19, and 20 as of 2026. I do plan on making a separate series that discusses the lore of the New Engine Slideshow characters, so I'll save that for a later time. I probably will bring it out in May of 2026, as that will mark Felix Cheng's 20th anniversary on YouTube. Many other users, such as Tom Funk, ThomasTankBoy, All-American Boy 9, and many others would also do their own New Engine Slideshow videos. Since Tom Funk and All-American Boy 9 both starred in the Kuno the Tankajin series, I'll save mentioning them for a future entry when I talk about the Kuno the Tankajin series. ThomasTankBoy's New Engine Slideshow video happens to be the longest surviving upload from the original era. His upload from 2007 is the same one that is still viewable on YouTube today. I'm sure that many of you also remember ThomasTankBoy for his Laughing Tomy Trains video. I never saw that one when it first came out. In fact, by the time I finally learned of its existence, a whole decade had passed. He did make a remake of that video, and both videos are impressive. The video would show a line of Tomy trains as the song The Laughing Policeman plays. The song was edited so that only the music and the laughing are heard. Any actual singing from the song was cut out. When the laughing portion of the song played, TTB managed to make the trains move as if they were laughing, which is quite hilarious to watch. After I saw this video for the first time, I think in 2016 or 2017, I did look up the full version of the song. Looking back at this, I'm real sorry I didn't check this video out a lot sooner. I might as well mention some other classic Thomas videos from the original era, as this seems like a good opportunity to do so. One user you guys probably know pretty well is Leo Kim Video. The first video on his YouTube channel that I ever saw, and most likely the first video anyone ever saw from this guy, was his Mad Bomber video. This video used some Erdl Thomas models modified to have motors. As you may have guessed from the title, there is apparently a Mad Bomber on the loose, and one detail I found to be interesting is that, except for Thomas, every character has a new name. For some reason, there are 2 ducks in this. I asked Leo if there was any relation to these characters, but he said they are not meant to be twins. The most well-known of these characters who got a new name was D261, being given the name Andy Diesel. I have seen some people refer to this character as Andy, since he didn't have a proper name in the original show. I think that one of the extraordinary scenes would be how, after Thomas went through an explosion at the start, we see that his smoke box and face has been separated from the rest of his body. It is like someone losing their head. I watched this video again for the first time in years as I was writing the script, and I have to say, it aged very well. I think some music swaps had to be done since, as the years have gone by, many people have had terrible luck with the use of music and copyright. I'll probably talk more about that in a future entry. Something else I know Leo Kim video for is his various videos where he shows some bootleg Thomas toys and he uses a hammer to break them apart. Another video I remember is Thomas Blows His Stack from Bulgy 13. In this one, Diesel 10 manages to brainwash Thomas to cause trouble around Sodor. What is unfortunate is that this video ends with Toby pushing Thomas off of a cliff, and then we hear an explosion after he falls, with Bulgy 13 confirming in a comment that Thomas indeed dies at the end, as I suspected before. That is unfortunate since Thomas wasn't in control of himself. I will warn you, if you do check this video out for yourself, it does contain some content that is not appropriate for younger viewers. As I was doing research for both of these videos as I was writing this portion of the script, I discovered that a few people have done their own remakes of these videos. I haven't checked any of them out, but maybe I will at some point after this video comes out. The next note has nothing to do with fan-created content, but with the actual show. When doing these retrospectives on my YouTube experience, I'm going to mostly focus on fan content and not talk about the actual shows or franchises that I am discussing, but there may be some exceptions here and there. In this case, I think this part about the official show is something I should mention because this was something I did not even know about when I watched Thomas as a kid. I live in the United States, which means that growing up, I heard Ringo Starr, George Carlin, Alec Baldwin, and Michael Brandon's narrations of the stories. Before YouTube, I had no idea that Michael Angelis, who had only narrated New Friends for Thomas, had also narrated most of the stories in the UK dub. I was surprised that there were different English dubs between the US and the UK. Another thing I was surprised to discover was how the UK dubs call SATam Hat the Fat Controller, which was what he was called in the books, which the US chose not to use. I find it unbelievable in that regard since there are still cases where American audiences will hear the name the Fat Controller, such as during the songs Really Useful Engine and SATam Hat. I can imagine a viewer in the UK or Australia, since the UK dub was the dub Australia had gotten, as opposed to getting their own dub as America did, discovering the US dub on the internet, and hearing the voices for 3 narrators they never heard in their own dub. For anyone who lives in the UK, Australia, or any other part of the world where the dub of Thomas in your country is the UK dub, how did you react when you found the US dub? Another piece of content that I'm going to be discussing for this retrospective isn't quite fan content. I mean, it sort of is, but it's more like a parody than anything that is fan created. I'm going to be bringing up Ernest the Engine car. This was an adult parody of Thomas that came out in Australia. But when I saw it for the first time, I didn't understand that it was targeted towards adults. I didn't understand that Stevie's stuttering resulted in him accidentally cursing, and for obvious reasons. I will not be playing a clip of Stevie stuttering here. I personally thought that the animation done was similar to Artman Productions, the company that did Wallace and Gromit. But that can't be the case since Artman Productions is based in the UK, and Ernest the Engine is in Australia. I also thought that the narrator of Ernest the Engine, Paul McCarthy, sounded a lot like Michelangelo's. Comparing them nowadays, I do hear enough of a difference between them, but I wouldn't be surprised if McCarthy's performance was intended to parody Angelus's Thomas narrations, or even Ringo Starr's narrations. What do you think? Another user that I would like to mention would be Jenkins92. Now, unfortunately, his YouTube account doesn't exist anymore, and he never appeared in the Kuno the Tank Engine series, so I do not have any visual representative of him. Something that I remember him doing would be a variety of different tribute videos to the various Thomas the Tank Engine characters, showing off images from the Railway series, the TV series, as well as much of their merchandise that was available at the time. Another video that I remember all the way back then is a video that is called Thomas and the Killer Cars. This was a video that was created by Clara's dad, aka Straight Arrow Productions. According to the description of this video, it was a stop-motion production for Clara's little brother's 3rd birthday, who is named Isaac. This is a stop-motion video that uses a wooden railway model of Thomas, along with some wooden figures and some Hot Wheels cars, who try to attack Thomas because they want the food and medicine that he is carrying in his freight cars, which is meant for the hospital. Something that is quite interesting is how she was able to change the expression on Thomas's face all throughout this. She even uploaded a video that discusses about how she had done this, and it is certainly amazing. Oh, and I should point out, by the way, that up until doing this, I had no idea that this was a girl. Wow. Nearly 20 years later, and I'm just finding this out. That pretty much wraps things up with this first installment of my YouTube experience. Before we end things off, I'd like to recommend a video by The Thomas Clinic, the untold story of Thomas and Friends fan content. It is quite an experience to watch as he discusses fan content relating to Thomas and Friends that had been posted on YouTube, and even on the internet before YouTube was even created. A lot of the Thomas-related content I'm going to talk about in my retrospective was not mentioned in that video. In fact, out of all of the Thomas fans who appeared in the original Kuno the Tank Engine series, I think only 2 or 3 of them were mentioned or referenced in that one. Felix Cheng sadly wasn't one of those mentioned users, but I guess that's what this retrospective series is for. There have been plenty other people that I have seen that have done their own videos discussing about old Thomas fan content on YouTube, such as discussing about some old videos that have since been deleted, as well as some old videos that are still up on YouTube today. There's probably going to be a select number of them that I'm going to be discussing about in this retrospective series. It pretty much is going to be my own viewpoints of how YouTube has gone for me when I first joined the website and how things have been going since then. So now I'm going to ask you all a question. Do you remember any of the fan content that I discussed about in today's video? What are some old videos that you remember seeing on YouTube that came out from 2005 to 2007? It will be very interesting to see what you have to say there. I am going to be pointing out here that there is the possibility that there will be a few things that I will miss, so if there is anything that you think that I should have mentioned about any of the topics that I talked about in this video, let me know, and I will be sure to bring that up in a future entry whenever I receive those comments. This first installment of the retrospective has taken me quite a long time to do. Certainly quite a lot of re-recordings that I had to do. But hopefully it will all be worth it in the end. So thank you very much for checking out this first installment, and I hope that the next couple of installments turn out to be just as good or even better than this one. That is all from me today. I will see you all in part 2.